To take a look at Nvidia after last week's GTC conference. Joining us now is Paul Meeks, Managing Director, Freedom Capital Markets, and Brendan Burke, Research Director, Semiconductor Supply Chain, Emerging Tech, Futurum. Thank you so much for joining us today. Paul, I want to start with you. You say you're only incrementally bullish on Nvidia after GTC. Tell us a little bit more about that viewpoint.
So there has been some worry that as we transition in AI from training large language models to inference, that Nvidia was going to be knocked off the pedestal. I actually think that even though it's inevitable for Nvidia to lose some share, the market is so large and it's growing so fast that this company will continue to do very well. And a lot of folks don't realize that it's not just the GPUs that Nvidia has locked up, but it's a much broader ecosystem. And so when I see this stock, even after GTC, with the announcement of over the next 2 fiscal years, potentially $1 trillion in orders, which for my models was up a couple of $100 billion before the conference, I think 170 to 175, where the stock is now, which is at the low end of its trading range ever since July of last year, is a hell of a buying opportunity.
Okay, so Brendan, I want to get your thoughts, your takeaways from GTC. As Paul just mentioned, the $1 trillion was a much talked about number, and it was at least $1 trillion through 2027. What are your takeaways from GTC?
My view, Diane, is that Nvidia expanded its addressable market at the show and showed that it's getting ahead of bottlenecks in the ecosystem and emerging compute opportunities. So the introduction of the Grok 3 LPX system shows that Nvidia was ready for the emerging inference economy that needs separate systems to output tokens from AI models, separate from what actually ingests the data to begin with. And that opens an opportunity where Nvidia can continue to scale its volume production on different nodes, which makes the leading node no longer a bottleneck because it can produce these inference chips that go side by side. And at the same time, we got a view into the emerging compute paradigm of NemoClaw, the use of agentic systems that are always on and have personal computers with everyone using a GPU at their desk to run models on an ongoing basis. These are growth factors that haven't been modeled in, and the show demonstrated that there's a larger market there that isn't simply working with hyperscalers to install GPUs.
Yeah, it's so interesting that, kind of myself, traders, strategists I talk to, it's been a head scratcher, right? Because, one of my colleagues made the analogy that it's like the star student, that you're just used to them turning in A's and you're kind of like, yeah, another A, and you're used to it. Brendan, I want to go back to you with your thoughts on, there was talk obviously about the space race as well with Nvidia. Is that the next frontier?
Space is coming for AI, and it's a strategic area that Nvidia has started working on, hiring engineers and partnering with emerging satellite companies such as StarCloud to push GPUs closer to the final frontier of space. And I think that just shows that Nvidia consistently gets ahead of bottlenecks like energy and construction. The launch of the DSX reference architecture for data centers shows that Nvidia is thinking bigger than simply its rack or its cluster, and thinking to the fundamental substrate of computing. Where are we putting data centers and how are we setting them up to use energy efficiently and then ultimately respond to demand? So that allows us at Futurum to look at what is the overall demand for AI, and not just what are the number of data centers that we can build today.